In 2001, Yvonne Ridley, a British journalist working for the Sunday Express, was assigned to cover the war in Afghanistan. As a brave journalist accustomed to reporting from conflict zones, she illegally sneaked into Afghanistan, disguising herself as a local woman by wearing a burqa. Her goal was to obtain an exclusive report on the situation under Taliban rule. However, her adventure turned into a nightmare when she was captured by Taliban forces near the Pakistan border. At the time, news about the Taliban was filled with images of brutality, and Ridley was convinced that she would be imprisoned or even executed. In a state of fear, she tried to hide her true identity, but after an inspection, the Taliban quickly discovered that she was a Western journalist who had entered without permission. When taken to a Taliban detention camp, Ridley thought she would be treated harshly. However, the opposite happened. She was not beaten, tortured, or mistreated as she had imagined. Instead, the Taliban guards treated her with respect. They even provided her with food, water, and a proper bed. Among them, there was a man who often spoke with her. Politely, he asked if Ridley wanted to read the Quran. Ridley, who was still stubborn at the time, flatly refused. She felt that this was merely part of the Taliban's propaganda to brainwash her. However, as time went on, she began to notice something that unsettled her: the way these men behaved. Although they were often portrayed as monsters by the Western media, Ridley saw that they lived with discipline, upheld their honor, and remained steadfast in their religious values. During a conversation, one of them said to her, "We will not harm you because Islam forbids us from hurting innocent women and guests." These words changed Ridley's perspective. She began to wonder, why were the people labeled as terrorists more polite and honorable than some men in her own country? After 11 days in captivity, the Taliban finally released Yvonne Ridley as a goodwill gesture to the West. As she was about to leave, one of the Taliban leaders advised her, "Read the Quran. Don't trust the media. Find out about Islam for yourself." Those words kept echoing in her mind. She, who once deeply hated Islam, began to feel intrigued to learn more about the religion. After returning to England, Ridley couldn't ignore her promise. She began reading the Quran and studied Islam objectively, not through the lens of the media she had always known. The more she read, the more fascinated she became. She discovered that Islam was not a religion of violence, as often portrayed in the media, but a faith of compassion, discipline, and justice. The teachings about the oneness of God, women's rights in Islam, and the beauty of Muslim morals deeply impressed her. 2 years after her captivity, in 2003, Yvonne Ridley recited the Shahada and officially embraced Islam. Her decision to convert shocked many people in England. As a journalist, she was known for being outspoken and courageous in criticizing injustice. Now, as a Muslim, she uses her voice to fight Islamophobia and defend the rights of Muslims in the West. She wrote books and frequently spoke at various international forums to explain how the Western media often misrepresents Islam. She was also active in politics, criticizing the foreign policies of Western countries towards the Muslim world. In the past, she thought Islam was a religion that oppressed women. However, after converting to Islam, she actually experienced a freedom and peace she had never felt before. People thought that after I converted to Islam, I would become an oppressed woman. On the contrary, I feel freer than ever, she said in an interview. Yvonne Ridley's story is proof that guidance can come in unexpected ways. From a journalist who once hated Islam, she eventually discovered the beauty of a religion she had misunderstood. She said, "If I had never been captured by the Taliban, I might never have known what Islam really is." Now she continues to fight for the truth and against negative propaganda about Islam. From a skeptical journalist, she has transformed into a devout Muslim and a defender of Islam in the Western world. Luna is a woman from Denmark who was born and raised in a family that had no knowledge of Islam at all. In her neighborhood, Islam was often seen as a foreign religion and even full of negative stereotypes. Like most people in the West, she grew up with the understanding that Islam is a strict religion with many rules. However, life often brings unexpected surprises. Luna's journey to discovering Islam did not begin with books or religious lectures, but with something simpler: observing the Muslims around her. Luna first began to notice the differences in the way her Muslim friends lived. She observed how they carried themselves with calmness and patience. What surprised her the most was that they never spoke ill of other religions, even when people around them often criticized or belittled other beliefs. One day, Luna asked one of her friends, "Why do you never speak badly about other religions? Don't you also believe that your religion is the most true?" Her friend smiled and replied, "Islam teaches us to respect all beliefs. We believe that everyone has their own path in seeking God, and it is not our place to belittle them." That answer left a deep impression on Luna. She had never heard anyone talk about religion in that way. Usually, religious debates in the West were filled with criticism and conflict. But here, she found something different, something that felt more peaceful and full of respect. Luna's interest in Islam grew even more. She began asking her friends more questions about their religion. One day, she accidentally saw one of her friends praying. She was mesmerized by how deeply focused and calm her friend seemed, as if she were speaking directly to God. Curious, Luna asked, "What do you feel when you pray?" Her friend gently replied, "I feel at peace. I feel close to God, as if all my worries and problems disappear for a moment." Luna fell silent. She tried to imagine what it would be like to have that kind of relationship with God, a relationship filled with tranquility, not fear or obligation. From there, she began reading more about Islam. She learned about prayer, fasting, and other Islamic teachings. She also came across inspiring stories of people who had found peace in Islam. However, the more she learned, the more she faced a big question. Do I really want to become a Muslim? Although her heart was beginning to be drawn to Islam, Luna couldn't simply ignore the fear inside her. How would her family react? What about her non-Muslim friends? Was she ready to live a life with an identity different from most of the people around her? She struggled with these questions for months. She tried to find reasons not to move forward, but the more she tried to avoid it, the more she felt that her heart had already found its answer. One night, she sat alone in her room reflecting. She realized that all this time, she had been searching for something that could bring peace and meaning to her life. And now, after discovering Islam, she felt as though she had found what she had been searching for all along. With a racing heart, she finally decided, "I want to become a Muslim." When the day came, Luna felt a mix of nervousness and happiness. She went to a mosque, accompanied by some of her Muslim friends. With a slightly trembling voice, she recited the Shahada. "I bear witness that there is no God but Allah, and I bear witness that Muhammad is the messenger of Allah." As those words left her mouth, she felt something extraordinary, a peace she had never felt before. Her tears fell, not out of sadness, but because of the deep happiness within her. She knew that her life would change after this. She would face challenges, possibly lose some friends, and maybe even face rejection from her family. But she also knew one thing. She had found the truth she had been searching for all along. As she had expected, Luna's decision to become Muslim was not easily accepted by everyone around her. Some of her friends and family were shocked, and some even tried to persuade her to change her mind. "Why did you choose Islam? Isn't it a religion full of rules?" Luna smiled and replied, "It is precisely because of the rules that I feel more at peace. Islam teaches me to live better, to be more disciplined, and to value time more." Although not everyone could accept her decision, Luna never regretted it. She continued to learn, to delve deeper into Islam, and she fell more in love with the religion that had now become a part of her life. Now, Luna often shares her story with others. She wants to show that Islam is not a religion that restricts, but a religion full of love, peace, and meaning. She wants to prove that anyone can find Islam, even in the most unexpected places. For her, the journey to Islam is not the end, but the beginning of a deeper spiritual adventure. Luna's story is proof that guidance can come from anywhere, even from small things like seeing someone pray or hearing calming words. She didn't search for Islam, but Islam found her. And when her heart opened to accept the truth, she knew that she had found her true spiritual home. Her journey was filled with challenges, but also with happiness. And most importantly, she had found the peace she had been searching for all along.